Garage painting process. Let's begin the garage transformation by removing all the caulking surrounding the frame, assuming the frame is also being painted. Paint will not stick to silicone caulking and very likely to crack if you paint over other types of caulking. There are a few ways to remove caulking depending on how old and/or hard it has become. When caulking is relatively new and still gummy, you'll be able to pull it off. When it is old and hard, you'll have to use an oscillating tool to cut it off. This will also be the case for very adhesive caulkings, even if they are still gummy. Open the garage door and place a drop sheet under the door. This will avoid potential overspray between the bottom of the door and the floor. Secure the drop sheet to the ground to avoid it being blown onto a freshly painted door. Make sure to mask any potential danger zones that can get overspray onto them. Remove the weather strippings from the garage door and ensure you label them and organize the screws so you don't lose them and to facilitate reinstallation. Make sure to tape the resulting openings to avoid any overspray inside the garage. Mask around the garage door and you will be ready to start prepping the door to be painted. Apply deglosser liberally and apply to the garage door and frame. Make sure to always wipe in a swiping motion and add more deglosser as needed. Equally important to use a clean side of your rag in order to avoid simply spreading dirt around. The purpose of this step is to degloss the surface, but also to chemically remove all dirt and contaminants from the surface. Once the chemical clean has been completed, you'll need to scuff the surface to dislodge any additional dirt that may need to be mechanically removed and ensure that the surface is properly deglossed. Paint will have a hard time sticking to any glossy surfaces. This is especially important for textured garage doors as it can be difficult to get in all the crevices. Proper cleaning and deglossing requires both a chemical and mechanical component. If the garage door or frame is smooth, use a sander with 180 grit sandpaper to degloss the surface. For textured garage doors, use scuff pads to scuff and degloss within all cracks and textured crevices. This is a vital step. To speed up the process and reduce team fatigue, use scuff pads designed for an orbital sander, but ensure you are getting in the crevices. Use the blower from your HVLP machine to remove any dust resulting from the mechanical clean and a water-based compatible tack cloth to clean up any remaining particles. Using an acetone-resistant sprayer, liberally spray acetone onto your low-lint, solvent-tolerant rag and apply to the garage door in a swiping motion to remove any remaining dirt particles and/or contaminants that may still be on the surface and to evaporate any remaining solvents left by the deglosser. It can take up to 30 minutes for all those solvents to evaporate from the surface, and you must have done so before you paint. You are now ready to prime. Filter your primer and spray on an even coat on all surfaces to be painted. Wait at least 30 minutes for the primer to be dry to the touch, and you will be ready to paint. You need to paint on the same day that you prime, or you will need to scuff your primer before painting. Apply the same preparation process to the weather strippings. Degloss, scuff, tack cloth, acetone, and prime them. Stir the door and window paint. Never shake it as this will create air bubbles that could affect the finish. Add the catalyst using a 10:1 ratio. Adjust paint for weather as needed using either accelerator or retarder. Fill the spray equipment with the paint using a filter. Paint the weather strippings and leave them to dry. Test the spray pattern before painting the garage door. Adjust your equipment to spray all the corners and edges. Test your pattern and fill in all the edges and corners. This is what filled in edges and corners should look like. Adjust your equipment for a tack coat. Test your pattern and apply a tack coat to the entire garage door. This is what a tack coat should look like. Adjust your spray equipment for the final coat. You don't need to wait. By the time you've tack coated the entire door, you'll be ready for the final coat. It is important to spray the final coat over the tack coat while it is still tacky and not dry. This is why it is called a tack coat. Waiting too long could potentially cause intercoat adhesion issues as the film will have fully cross-linked. The purpose of the tack coat is to prevent sagging and serves as a foundational coat for your top coat, but it must fuse and cross-link together with the top coat. This cannot happen if it is too advanced in the cross-linking process and is why spraying in direct sunlight is likely to cause adhesion issues. The film will sometimes dry so fast that it doesn't even have the time to fuse with the surface, let alone remain tacky for an additional coat. Never spray a garage door in direct sunlight. During ideal conditions, of course, proceed to spray the top coat so that it entirely covers the surface. This should be between 3 and 4 mils wet, but you'll be able to tell visually if the surface is covered with the new color. If the paint is applied too thin, you will get a rough finish, and if it is applied too thick, you will get sagging. It is important to adjust your equipment and use proper spraying techniques. Be mindful of distance from the surface as well as angle. Notice how close our sprayer is spraying from the surface and how much he is overlapping his coats. This ensures a uniformly wet coat that looks like this. If an additional coat is required because the product is applied too thin, make sure not to wait too long or you will need to scuff the surface before painting. If the paint is no longer tacky, you should scuff to avoid any adhesion issues. Marvel at that new, beautiful factory finish. This is what the final coat should look like a brand new garage door. Now you're ready to untape. Reinstall the weather strippings. Prepare your caulking tube. Ensure that the paint is dry to the touch and apply the caulking. Smooth any edges as needed. Get ready for that huge smile on your customer's face.